I can't hold it anymore. Smoke and ash sour the air. Her face is pale. Sweat clings to scratched skin. Hart drops to one knee. Gray eyes steady, then shake between fear and resolve. 50-something. Salt and iron beard. Hands rough as juniper bark. He draws the iron from the forge, heat rolling off it in waves. "Do it," she says, hoarse but firm. Her eyes never leave his. Cole bites down, pulls a breath. "I'm sorry." The iron meets flesh. A sharp hiss tears the afternoon. Smoke and hot metal twist with the sour tang of burned cloth and skin. The Apache woman screams. Her voice cracks the empty yard and echoes back into him like a breaking post. When the sound dies, Cole wraps a red scarf tight around her hip and ties it off. His voice comes low and sandy. "From now on, nobody touches you." Light slides across the yard in long planks. Wind flicks dust off the rails, then dies. Far off, a thin line of smoke smears the sky, the last of a fire that stole half a season in an hour. Cole stands slow. His shirt is scorched. His eyes sit deep. He has seen a lot of dying. Gray dawns over cold hills, hands that never warmed again. But he has never heard a scream cut this close to the bone. Her name is Aiyana. He found her in Rock Hollow, wedged between two lightning-split pines where the gulch twists and the wind hums like a throat after a storm. The ground was slick clay. The air was a bruise. He rode out for a missing mare and stumbled on men dragging a woman. They tied her with slick rope and laughed. Cole did not count to 3. He did not weigh odds. He fired. One man went down. The other 2 scattered, boots slapping creekstone. He cut her loose. Said nothing. Handed her a blanket and the last of his canteen. "You going to sell me?" She rasped. He shook his head. His gaze was heavy but clear. "I already paid for your life with bullets and luck. Not to sell it." He did not know that sentence would bind them both. They reached the ranch after dark. The forge still breathed a last, stubborn red, an eye refusing to close. Aiyana moved without sound, like a wild cat that refuses to limp. Cole hung his gun, stripped the saddle, and nodded at an empty stall. "Sleep there. Tomorrow I'll figure the rest." She nodded once. "Aren't you afraid of me?" Cole's laugh was thin, smoke-scratched. "I'm afraid of plenty. You don't make the list." Night moves in silence. Wind threads the pickets. The windmill creaks like a thin bone. Cole sits by the coals and watches them pulse while the house holds ghosts, the way wood holds smoke. Mary Ellen, lost to fever 3 years back. Joshua, a son who never came home from the Western campaign. Maybe that is why the sight of this Apache woman, scraped raw and refusing to bow, reaches the piece of him that is not dead yet. Maybe it is debt. Maybe the old ache found a new name. First, red light. She is washed at the trough and presses an herb mash to the cut, found along the fence line. Cole steps out with 2 tin cups. Coffee steam twists up and vanishes. "Where are you headed?" he asks. "Far. They will come back. You'll die on the road." He offers a cup. "Here, I have a rifle. If I stay, you get killed in my place." He looks at her a long beat. Gravel in his voice. "I am old. I've seen enough men die. But if there's one more chance to do something right, I'm not running." She watches him over the rim, tightens the red scarf at her wrist, still stained with last night's blood. "I'll stay, but I don't want charity." No one said charity. He nods toward the corral. "A trade. You help work the horses. I give you roof and ammunition. And when they come, we shoot first. The sun climbs and sets the western mountains on fire. They move through chores without waste. Cole patches a split rail. Aiyana mends a bridle with a tight Mexican saddle stitch he doesn't see much out here. The roan tosses its head, does something foolish with its lip. She lets out one short cough of laughter. He hears it like the first drop after drought, brief, gone, leaving the smell of rain. At noon, heat clamps down. The wind gives up. Her eyes go to the far ridges where the copper light sits like a blade. Do you know why they hunt me? She asks. I don't need to. He checks a hinge. Not if you don't plan to make trouble. You already have trouble. She looks back to the ridges, then tells it flat. A dead white family near Tombstone. A paper naming her people. A reward poster making its rounds. Men in town spit justice with a grin. Beneath that word, a map of copper beneath her family's winter grounds. A line of wagons that will need a corridor clean of witnesses. Cole has heard this kind of story. Everyone has. A raid, a rage, a debt paid in blood. But the shape turns as she speaks. The sheriff, Gage Thornton, she says. He exhales. You know him. She nods once. We used to drink the same whiskey, Cole says. Before I learned what it tastes like when the bottle is paid for by dirt he didn't own. They stand and let the heat vibrate. 3 crows strip the sky of noise and arrow south. A smudge moves along the far trail. Wagon, maybe, or riders. If you walk out now, they'll cut you in pieces, Cole says. And if I stay, you become the first piece. He keeps his gaze steady. You saved your own life when you refused to fall in that gulch. I only cut rope. If a fight is coming, we'll choose where to stand. She thinks it over. The red scarf glows against her brown wrist, a small, bright oath. I'll stand, she says, but not behind you. Good. I hate when people stand where I can't see them. Afternoon folds in. The forge rings twice, then quiets. Cole pours coffee and watches her under the eave by the tack room, sewing leather as if the twine were part of her fingers. Wind pushes her hair in loops. Her hands never shake. Something in that sight reaches back into his past and puts a piece of it in order. Not mercy. Not romance. Respect for the way a person bears weight without complaint. Drink, he says, carrying the cup. Bitter keeps you straight. She takes it and keeps working. Do you always talk this little? When you talk too much, you say the wrong thing. Out here, the wrong thing can kill you. A sound that might be a laugh. Then we'll say only what we can keep. After sunset, a small fire makes a small circle in the yard. Far off, a coyote writes a lonely sentence and erases it. Cole gives her a trimmed slice of years in uniform. The hill no one wanted. The order no one argued. Faces he can name but cannot bring back. Aiyana lets the words pass over like night air. Firelight licks the raised line at her wrist where rope bit. Do you still believe in God? She asks. Cole tips his chin up. Stars hang loose and thick like filings struck from a black anvil. I don't know. I believe in wind. It comes, it goes. It doesn't care what fence you build. We say the spirit is like wind, she answers. If you do wrong, it will sing in your ear and never stop. He smiles without much joy. Then I have a choir. Silence eases down. The fire sinks. Something unspoken takes shape, moves between them like breath you can see on a winter morning, then slips away. An oath without a ceremony, born of a scream, a hot iron, and a strip of red cloth. Dawn again. Cole saddles the claybank mare. Aiyana takes the bay. They ride fence while the sky is still cold. In the splay of hoof marks below the north line, Aiyana squats and touches a print with 2 fingers. Heel flipped, she says. They're faking sign. A bandit trick. Cole leans over. The impression is wrong. Too narrow for the weight, a crescent where none should be. You've hunted men before. I've hunted deer that hunted men. She rises. Men are louder. They move along the east pasture. One set of tracks peels toward the ravine where the creek swallows sound. Aiyana looks away. Decides not to mention it yet. Cole notes the pause and lets it live. By midday, a thin cloud bank drifts up from the south. In town, posters curl on the board behind Martha Kane's way station office. Wanted. Apache Raider. A lot of men want that figure. A lot of men owe cattle notes and think blood will balance their ledger. Behind those men, Sheriff Gage Thornton counts miles, maps routes, writes to buyers shipping by the carload back east, once wagons reach the railhead. Cole and Aiyana water the horses at the trough and eat cold beans from the same tin. What is your plan? She asks. Never had one that lasted, he says. But I can count. He ticks them off with a finger. 1. You don't walk into town. Not with those posters. 2. I don't sell cattle for a month. Too visible. 3. We find proof, paper, wagon brands, a stamp that speaks louder than a mouth. And 4. We get through tonight. Then we talk about 4. Trouble arrives with the wind. It pushes from the west at dusk, hard enough to bend the cottonwoods. Something in it tastes wrong. Grease, camphor, lamp oil, Cole says. Barn, Aiyana answers, already moving. They grab canvas buckets and rakes, work the hand pump at the trough, throw water, cut a break around the hay shed. The first tongue of flame is small, then larger, then a voice in the wind joins another. The fire becomes a chorus. Wind rolls flame along the hay like a red belt and throws heat back in their faces. Cole herds the horses with short, low words. Aiyana pulls gate pins, slaps flanks with the flat of her hand. Fire crawls up the shed wall and into stacked fodder like someone who knows the house by heart. Backline. Drive them through the gap, he shouts. They push the last gelding out as a brace beam caves. Sparks fan across the yard. Heat slaps their faces. Cole drags a wet tarp over the stall door. Aiyana disappears in smoke to grab the bay's lead rope. She reappears coughing, eyes hot, hair singed at the ends, but the bay is out and running. By the time the worst passes, half the feed is gone. The north fence is a line of black sticks. The yard looks like a battlefield after someone tidied the bodies. They bend, hands on knees, sucking air that will not cool. Cole's shirt sticks to him. Aiyana presses a palm to her side above the hip. When her fingers come away red, she says nothing. Then, I can't hold it anymore. Cole's mouth goes tight. Inside. She shakes her head. Here. Now. Do it. He banks the forge coals high and brings the iron to a dull red that climbs toward orange. Then it is the hook already told, the iron, the breath, the hiss, the scream, the red scarf pulled tight and tied. When it is over, the night is finally quiet, as if noise used itself up. Cole lays the iron down and touches her shoulder. She does not shake him off. From now on, he says, nobody touches you. She nods once. He is not sure if she heard or simply accepted the terms. They do not sleep. They sit on the steps and let the sky turn while ashes cool. Near dawn, a coyote limps along the fence and stares, as if they are the strange ones. Cole sips coffee gone bitter and cold. Aiyana tears a strip from a shirt and rewraps the scarf for pressure. They will come back, she says. Yes. You still don't want to know why? I know enough. He watches pale light gather on the rails. They burned a winter's feed to make a point. Men who do that won't stop at a person. She studies him. The wind lays a strand of hair across her cheek and holds it there. Thornton. Thornton. Cole's tone hardens. He has the man's smile catalogued, the handshake measured. He knows how a man like that will stand in the street while others do the sweating. Then we find proof, Aiyana says. We take it where his smile does not work. Paper, stamps, a wagon we can name, and my brother. If he's in their hands, we take him back. Cole looks at her. There it is, the other fire. He nods. 1. Today we mend fence. 2. We look for sign. 3. We pay a visit to Martha Kane. You trust her? I trust who she hates. Same thing out here. They work the morning like people who know forward is the only direction left. New posts, laid rails, char scraped where it would poison stock, bent iron stacked for Isaiah Freeman, the town smith, to beat into something else. By noon, the yard looks less like an ending and more like a promise to persist. Cole writes on a scrap with a carpenter's pencil. Feed, 3 weeks. Nails, 40. Coal oil, none. He folds it, tucks it, and saddles up. Aiyana hesitates, then reaches for the bay's reins. You stay, he says. I ride. I wear a hat. I keep my head down. Posters. Bandana. She taps the red scarf, then lowers her voice. Black side out. He gives in. Martha's first. Back door. They take the creek path, slow, where the banks crumble. From a distance, the town sits low under the sun like a playing card dropped in dust. Up close, everything moves. Hands, eyes, flies, rumors. The back of Martha's way station smells like boiled coffee and horse sweat. She opens the door before they knock. You brought a storm with you, she says. It found us, Cole answers. We need quiet, and answers. Quiet is expensive, Martha says. Answers are worse, but I owe you a coffee. Both of you. Come in. Inside, the walls listen. Outside, the wind shifts. It carries the faint rattle of a freight wagon and a laugh that never reaches the eyes. Beyond the next rise, men who work for Sheriff Gage Thornton hurry the day along. They count how many miles of road sit between them and whatever they want to take next. Between those men and that taking stand an old rancher who is done running, a young woman who refuses to kneel. Between them, a red scarf and an oath the wind already knows by heart. By the time they reach Martha Kane's way station, the dust from the creek path clings to their coats like ash, and the sun stands high enough to blind a man who looks too long. Cole ties the clay bank under the cottonwood. Aiyana stays half-shadowed near the wall, hat pulled low. Inside, the air smells of chicory coffee and iron hinges. Martha looks up from a ledger and gives him the kind of half-smile that means trouble found its own feet. You look like hell, she says. I've been there, Cole answers. He sets his hat down, eyes flicking to the window. Need feed, nails, and news. News costs more, she says, pouring coffee. Especially when it bleeds. Aiyana stays silent until Martha's eyes cut her way. You the one from the posters? Cole's tone flattens. She's with me. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get. Martha studies Aiyana a heartbeat longer, then shrugs. I've seen worse company walk in with better lies. Sit. Drink before the law rides by. They drink. Outside, a freight wagon rattles past, dust pluming. Cole nods toward the window. Those wagons, new mark on the canvas? Martha follows his gaze. Yeah. Saw it last week. Circle T brand, but the paint's wrong shade. Belongs to Thornton's cousin, out near Copper Ridge. He's running more stock than he owns. Guess whose paper covers it? Judge Hargrove, Cole mutters. Always, Martha says. And rumor says the Circle T is buying ore, not selling beef. Some say they've got miners under guard. Cole glances at Aiyana. Copper seam. She nods once, jaw tight. My family's land. You'll need proof, Martha says. Talk to Isaiah. He's been melting rail stamps into shoe plates. Says each one carries a freight code. Cole rises. We'll do that. Martha blocks the door with her hip. Careful. Thornton's got eyes near the smithy. And, Hart, whatever you're doing, end it before the rains. Wet tracks tell tales. He nods. Appreciate the warning. Don't thank me, she says. Just live long enough to owe me again. They slip out the back, follow the alley where laundry lines flap like white flags. At the corral, two men lean on a rail talking low. One wears a deputy's badge. Aiyana pulls her hat brim down. Cole steers her wide. The men glance up but don't call out. Only when they hit open ground does Cole breathe again. We'll swing east, he says. Isaiah's forge sits near the dry wash. They ride slow under the sun. The air wavers with heat. Aiyana rides light in the saddle, scanning every ridge. That wagon mark, she says. You knew it before Martha spoke. Thornton used it when he ran supply during the war. Stole feed, sold it back to the quartermaster. Never changed the paint. Then he hides behind his own stain, she says. Like most men who live long, Cole answers. By mid-afternoon, the forge appears ahead, a squat building of stone and heat shimmer. Isaiah Freeman stands at the anvil, sleeves rolled, hammer flashing. His skin glistens with sweat and soot. His eyes, when he looks up, carry both welcome and worry. Cole Hart. Thought the next time I saw you, it'd be in a sermon or a coffin. Neither took, Cole says. Need your hands and your silence. Isaiah glances at Aiyana, then back. The law calls her wanted. The law's mouth lies, Cole says. You still keep records? Of metal, Isaiah says. Paper burns. Good. We've got something that shouldn't. They step inside. The air throbs with heat. Aiyana unwraps a scrap of charred wagon canvas pulled from the burned fence line. Isaiah turns it, runs a thumb over the faded stamp. Circle T, freight code 39. That's not a ranch mark. That's federal transport. Someone's laundering shipments through ranch brands. Cole nods. We need proof that ties back to Thornton. Then you need ledgers, Isaiah says. And the only man keeps them is his stable foreman, lives behind the sheriff's barn. Aiyana straightens. Then I'll go. No, Cole says. Too many eyes. They look for a wanted Apache, not a ranch hand. Give me a hat and a water pail. I'll walk through daylight. Isaiah grins a little. She's right, old man. Cole exhales slow. You get in, you don't talk, you take what's under the desk drawer. Wooden box. If trouble starts, you run north to the creek. I'll draw them off. She nods once. At dusk. Isaiah hands her a hammer strap. Carry this. Looks honest. She tucks it in her belt. What if I'm caught? Then hit first, Cole says. The sky bleeds into copper when she leaves. Cole waits by the cottonwood east of town, close enough to see the barn roof shimmer. He counts heartbeats against the cicada hum. Every sound feels wrong. A dog barks. A door slams. Then movement, a slim figure crossing the yard with a pail. 2 horses snort. The stable hand spits, walks off. Aiyana slips through the back door. Cole's hand rests on his colt. The minutes stretch, slow as cooling iron. A rider trots by, glances, keeps going. Somewhere a bell clangs from the saloon. Then, shadow at the window, quick flash of a hand signal. 2 fingers, then a fist. She's found it. Cole exhales. But a second figure steps from the porch, a deputy with a lantern. Hey! He calls. Aiyana freezes. Cole fires once into the air from the trees. The deputy curses, runs toward the noise. Aiyana vanishes into the dark behind the barn. Hooves thunder. Cole swings into the saddle, bolts along the fence line, firing again to pull them west. Bullets snap bark beside him. He cuts through mesquite, drops into a dry gully, lets the claybank stand silent. Shouts fade toward the ridge. When he circles back, Aiyana waits at the creek, chest heaving, clutching a small wooden box. Got it, she pants. He checks it by moonlight, ledgers bound in twine, freight seals pressed in wax. Proof enough to hang a sheriff, he says. Or get us both hung, she answers. They hide the box in his saddlebag and ride hard until stars lose their edges. At the ranch, the coals in the forge still whisper. Cole dismounts stiff, shoulders burning. You did good, he says. She ignores it, goes straight to the trough, splashes her face. They have my brother, she says suddenly. I saw him. Cole stops. Where? Behind the stalls, feeding horses. He looked at me but didn't speak. There was fear, not recognition. Maybe both. Cole grips the rail. Tali's alive. Alive but bound. Her voice breaks, then steadies. He's part of their disguise, Cole. They dress him as Apache to frame raids. I saw the paint on his skin. The truth hits hard. Cole stares at the horizon where the barn fire used to glow. Thornton's making war ghosts to sell land. And my brother is one of them, she says. We take him back tomorrow. Cole nods slow. Tomorrow then. They don't sleep. Before dawn, Isaiah arrives with a wagon. His arms wrapped from a forge burn, but his grin stays easy. Heard shots last night, he says. Guess that means you found what you needed. Found more than we wanted, Cole says. He shows him the ledger. Isaiah flips it, eyes narrowing. Look here, same stamp repeats every third entry. They're cycling numbers to fake shipments. If the feds see that, it's fraud clear as sunrise. We can't carry it to town, Cole says. Thornton will search every road. Isaiah taps his hammer on the wagon rim. Then we make the road lie. I'll seal this book inside the wagon frame. Steel doesn't burn, and no deputy checks under bolts. He pries up a brace, hollows a slit, slides the ledgers in, and welds the seam shut. Sparks shower their boots. Now it rides safe. And we ride? Cole asks. Not yet, Isaiah says. Thornton's men circle the valley today. Give it night. Cole nods. Then we lay low. They pass the day fixing the north fence. Heat trembles over the field. Aiyana works silent, bandana pulled high. Around noon, Cole spots vultures spiraling over the far pasture. Carrion, he says. Maybe not dead yet, she answers. They ride out. The burned grass crunches like old bone. Near the ridge, they find tracks, hooves heavy, spaced wide. At the end of the trail lies a calf gutted for bait, its brand sliced off. Cole crouches. Message. From Thornton? From whoever he pays to do dirty work. Aiyana kneels, fingers the dirt. Boot prints east to west. 5 men. One drags the heel. Cole glances at her. You sure? Same mark as last night, the flipped heel. He stands, jaw tight. They're close. She looks toward the horizon, where heat blurs the hills. Then let them come. The wind picks up dust, rolling it across the field in low ghosts. Cole watches it spin and knows the pasture is gone, burned twice, once by fire, once by what follows. He rests a hand on the rifle. Tomorrow, he says, we take back the name. By dawn, the valley smells of ash and iron. Smoke from the night's forge drifts thin across the pasture where the grass never grew back. Cole saddles the clay bank in silence while Aiyana packs dried meat, a coil of rope, the rifle. The red scarf now black side out hides fresh blood on her wrist. Isaiah said night, she murmurs. Then night, Cole answers, but daylight's for burying what we can't carry. They walk the line where the fence burned. Charred posts lean like bones. Cole digs with the shovel until the earth turns cool. They lay the calf carcass in, cover it, tamp it down. If you bury the bait, he says, the scavengers move on. Aiyana looks to the ridge. And if the scavengers wear badges? Then we move faster. By noon, heat drives everything into shadow. They rest under the windmill. The blades creak above like a clock with one tooth left. Aiyana studies the ledger's copy Isaiah made, marks scratched on thin leather. Each code ends with a number pair, she says. It matches freight routes east. And the third line? Repeats. Fake shipment. Cole nods. Thornton's feeding false cargo to line his men's pockets. She squints toward the ridge. He needs witnesses gone to keep the math straight. He hears the edge in her voice and knows she's thinking of Tali. We'll get him, he says. She doesn't answer. When the sun begins to slide, they load the wagon. Isaiah meets them near the ford, arm still bandaged, hammer in his belt. Thornton's deputy snooped the yard, he says. Asked about tool orders. I told him you rode west after supplies. How long before he checks? Not long enough to waste time talking. He passes Cole a satchel. Copies of every mark I found. Hide them separate from the steel. Cole tucks it under the seat. We move the originals tonight. Isaiah looks between them. The forge can't hold fire forever. Once this breaks open, you run south to the Marshal outpost at Liberty. Ask for Harper. You trust him? Cole asks. I trust who he jailed, Isaiah says. Same thing. They part at the fork. Cole and Aiyana steer north toward the creek. Crickets start up, first few brave or foolish. The wagon groans on rough ground. When they stop at the bend, the air feels heavy, the kind that holds breath before thunder. Aiyana kneels to fill canteens and stills suddenly. Riders, she whispers. Cole crouches beside her. Hoofbeats, faint but closing. 3, maybe 4. He cuts the mule's line and slaps it toward the ravine. Upstream, he says. They slide into brush, rifles ready. Figures appear through the dust, 2 men from town and 1 stranger with a neck scarf bright as flame. They carry lanterns, though light still lingers. One speaks. Tracks end here. Must have turned off the road. Another spits. Sheriff says bring back proof they're hiding the girl. The flame scarf man kicks a clump of earth. Proof's whatever I say it is. He lifts the lantern higher. We'll check the creek. Cole signals Aiyana low. Wait. She nods, mouth set. The men dismount. One steps near the wagon, prodding the wheel. Fresh grease, he says. The lantern catches a glint, the welded seam. Cole's heart stutters. Aiyana raises the rifle, but Cole touches her arm. Too soon. The man bends closer. A crack from downstream interrupts him, a branch snapping. The men whirl, rifles drawn. Coyotes, one mutters, but nerves show in his laugh. The leader gestures. Split. 2 east, 1 west. Footsteps scatter. Cole whispers, now. He fires once, hitting the lantern dead center. Oil flares, blinds them. Aiyana fires next. 1 man drops. The others shoot wild into the smoke. Cole moves, grabs the nearest by the collar, slams him against the wagon. Tell Thornton he's already lost. He growls, then drives a fist that folds the man silent. The third flees toward the ridge, limping. Aiyana shoulders her rifle. Let him go? He'll run faster with fear than blood. The flames gutter out, leaving the sharp stink of burned oil and wet earth. They'll be back, she says. Tonight. Then we move now. They heave the bodies to the ravine, cover tracks with brush. By the time moonlight finds them, the wagon creaks south again. Hours pass. Coyotes trail at a distance. Near the old mill bridge, Cole halts. We hide the wagon here. On foot from this point. They unload the rifle, the satchel, the small food sack. Aiyana touches the scarf on her wrist. What if he already moved Tali? Then we make him move something else, his temper. They climb toward the ridge overlooking town. The night smells of dust and lamp smoke. Down below, the sheriff's office burns light from every window. Men come and go, voices sharp. In the alley behind the livery, 2 horses stand saddled. Aiyana squints. Tali's bay, she says softly. Still there. They slip closer. Cole checks the revolver. We take him quiet. They circle the barn side. Inside, muffled laughter, clatter of cards. 1 man leans on the half door, rifle across his lap. Aiyana lifts a pebble, tosses it behind a feed barrel. The man turns his head, just enough. Cole's arm snakes over the door, drags him down, fist silencing before breath. They drag him behind the trough. Aiyana slips in. Shadows and horse smell wrap her. She moves stall to stall until she finds him, boy no older than 17, hair longer, face painted with gray ash, rope scars on his wrists. Tali, she whispers. He startles, drops the brush he's holding. You shouldn't be here, he hisses. They said. They lie, she says. We're leaving. I can't. His eyes dart toward the office. They have others. They'll kill them if I run. Who? Farmhands. Mexicans. 2 boys from the reservation. Thornton says they stole cattle. They didn't. Cole appears in the doorway. We'll get them out too. Tali shakes his head. Too late. He's taking them at dawn to the freight yard. Says the Marshal needs proof Apache raids continue. Aiyana's breath catches. He's staging an attack. Tonight, Tali says. He'll burn the grain store and blame us. Cole's jaw hardens. Then we stop it. They move fast. Tali grabs a coat, wipes paint from his face. I know the path behind the yard. Guards drink there. Cole nods. You lead. They slip through the alleys, the town half asleep, half drunk. A lantern swings from a hook, laughter spills from the saloon. The grain store squats by the tracks, doors barred, wagons loaded with kegs. Cole smells the pitch. Oil, he whispers. They'll torch it, blame the wind. Aiyana circles left. 2 guards slump by a barrel, bottle between them. She waits until they laugh, then cracks one across the skull with the rifle butt. The other lunges. Cole's revolver coughs once, the sound swallowed by the train whistle in the distance. They drag the bodies aside. Tali cuts the fuse line from the kegs. They plan to light it from the yard office. Where's Thornton? Out riding patrol to make the scene look honest. Cole nods. All the better. He moves to the office window. Inside, ledgers, lanterns, a map pinned to the wall. He scans it, red X's across ranch lands, lines connecting to the Circle T mark. There it is, he mutters. Proof and plan. Aiyana joins him. Take the map. He rips it free, folds it tight. We burn the store empty. No fire, no raid. She looks at him, surprised. You'll fake their lie? Turn it against them. They splash water over the kegs, toss straw to soak the oil, strike a match, then snuff it in mud, smoke without flame. When dawn comes, townsfolk will see the blackened floor and call it sabotage gone wrong. The real cargo, the map, the proof, all gone. They leave through the side door. But before they reach the creek path, a shout cracks the night. Stop! A lantern swings behind them, Deputy Cross, the same man from the ridge. His gun flashes. A bullet snaps past Aiyana's ear. Cole turns, fires once. Cross staggers, drops the lantern, which rolls and bursts in oil. Fire spills, catches on straw. Run! Cole yells. They sprint, fire chasing their heels. Behind them, the store erupts, a roar that lights the street like noon. Bells ring, men shout. Cole, Aiyana, and Tali dive into the creek bed, water up to their knees. The fire's reflection dances on their faces. We can't go back, Tali gasps. We weren't planning to, Cole says. They slog downstream, hiding in reeds until the noise fades to embers. The town behind burns half the night. When morning comes, smoke still drifts over the hills. They make camp under a bluff, horses tethered, bodies spent. Cole unwraps the map. The ink has run, but enough remains. The judge's seal, freight codes, the routes north to Copper Ridge. We've got the trail, he says. Aiyana stares at the smoke column rising in the distance. And now they'll come for the rest. Let them, Cole says. We've got names. Tali sits silent, fingers tracing rope scars. I left others behind. We'll bring them out, Cole says. One truth at a time. The wind shifts, carrying ash through the canyon. Aiyana closes her eyes. We buried a calf yesterday, she whispers. Today it's a town. Ash feeds grass, Cole answers. If there's rain left in the sky. She looks at him, weary but lit inside. Then we'll wait for rain. He nods once. The wind moves on, carrying smoke east. Somewhere in that gray light, a new oath forms without words, born of flame and loss. The echoes will travel before dawn, following the creek like a promise. By morning, the creek runs red with clay and silt, the color of things half remembered. Cole wakes stiff, the fire ash gray, Aiyana already crouched by the water cleaning her rifle. Tali dozes beside the wagon tongue, head on his arm. He's a good shot? Cole asks quietly. Better than I was at his age, she says. If he hadn't learned, he wouldn't be breathing. Cole pours coffee grounds into the pot, stirs with a stick. Today we move the proof to Isaiah, before Thornton learns how empty his fire burned. Aiyana tightens the scarf around her wrist. He'll send riders to search the canyon. Then we'll be gone before their horses smell water. They break camp, leaving no smoke, and steer the wagon south through mesquite until the old telegraph poles appear, silver in the light. The road curls toward Isaiah's forge by the river bend. Heat rolls off the sand, blurring the air. When they reach the yard, Isaiah stands by the quench trough hammering flat stock, the sound sharp and steady. He looks up, sweat running down his jaw. "You lit up half the county last night," he says. Cole dismounts. "Not us." Thornton burned his own lies. Isaiah wipes his hands. "He'll want them back." "He won't get them," Aiyana says. She lifts the folded map. Isaiah's brow creases as he unfolds it on the anvil, eyes tracing the routes. Copper Ridge, Liberty Spur, Hargrove's name stamped on every bill. He slaps the iron with the back of his hand. "Paper burns, steel doesn't. We weld the truth shut." Cole nods. "Hide it in the wagon frame again?" "Deeper this time." Isaiah clears the anvil, fetches hollow braces. These carry freight weight fine and won't sing when tapped. Lawmen never look under rust. He heats the pieces till they glow orange, the forge throwing light that paints them all in flame color. Aiyana holds the tongs steady while Isaiah slides the folded map and ledger copies into the hollow. The hiss of water swallows their breath. Sparks climb and die. "It's done," Isaiah says. Iron keeps memory better than men. Cole grips his shoulder. "You saved us more than once." "Don't make it habit," Isaiah replies. "Sheriff's men are sniffing this way. I saw one at the ferry. Then we head west tonight." "Liberty?" "First Martha's. She can run a wire safer than a preacher." Isaiah nods. "Take the lower trail. Less open ground." He pauses. "You sure about this, Cole? There's no coming back once the Marshals know your name again." "I'm already past coming back." Isaiah half smiles. "Then keep the river between you and sin." It slows pursuit. They share a look that means more than thanks. Cole and Aiyana load supplies, salt, powder, horseshoes. Tali helps, silent, eyes dark. As they finish, Isaiah tosses him a small revolver. "It won't make you invincible," he says, "but it'll make a man think twice." Tali nods. "That's all I need." They roll out as the sun peaks, following the river's glint. Around midday, they stop to water the horses. The air hums with cicadas. Aiyana kneels at the edge, touching the current. "Iron taste," she says. Cole looks up from refilling canteens. "The river?" "No." She points upriver. A black smear moves along the bend. Smoke. Campfire or signal? Cole squints. Too thick for campfire. He untethers his rifle. "Get Tali under the wagon. If they cross, we flank." The smoke grows darker, wind carrying the crackle of brush fire. A band of riders emerges through the shimmer, Thornton's men, 6 at least, dust veiling their faces. "They found us," Aiyana says. Cole climbs the wagon side, sights down the carbine. No, they found Isaiah. The riders pass the fork heading north, dust tail curling like a fuse. "He's still at the forge," Aiyana says, alarm rising. "They'll burn him out." Cole's jaw sets. "We draw them off." He whips the reins, steering the wagon across the flats toward the river crossing. The mules lunge, wheels biting dirt. Dust sprays behind them. "If we run east, they'll follow?" Tali shouts. "They'll have to," Cole says. "We're carrying what they want." The first bullets hiss over the wagon top, chewing splinters. Aiyana turns, fires twice, one shot hitting a rider square in the shoulder. "Keep low," Cole growls. They thunder across dry wash toward the ford where the river bends shallow. The wagon hits rocks, jolts, iron frame groaning under weight. Water splashes up cold and brown. Cole yells, "Jump!" They abandon the seat midstream, letting the wagon roll on half-submerged. Cole grabs the mule's line, cuts it free, then shoves the animal across. Aiyana hauls Tali by the sleeve up the bank. Behind them, riders reach the water. Gunfire splits the air. Cole returns fire from the reeds. One horse flails, screaming, then crashes sideways. Another rider slips, swept downstream. The rest pull back, regrouping. Cole fires again, hits a canteen on a saddle, water spraying like blood. "They'll circle," Aiyana says. "Let them. We move while they count bodies." They sprint through mesquite until the river curve hides them. Breathing hard, they stop at a rise where the wind smells of coal smoke. Cole looks back, thin black column rising where Isaiah's forge stands. "Damn it," he mutters. "We warned him." Aiyana catches his arm. "He knew what he was doing. So did every man I buried." For a long moment neither speaks. The wind bends grass, the smoke widens, orange flashes inside. Aiyana squints and sees it, a single rhythm in the sparks, 3 bursts, pause, 1 more. "Signal," she whispers. "He's alive." They count another series, short, long, the code Isaiah used when a horse went lame on the trail. Cole exhales through his teeth. "That means keep moving. And if he falls, then we make his fire count." They move, keeping low through brush and dry gullies. Coyotes scatter ahead of them. When they crest the ridge above the river road, the air tastes like rain that never comes. Behind, thunder rolls, or maybe the forge exploding. Aiyana glances back once, lips tight, then faces forward. "He said iron remembers," she murmurs. "Then we remember for him," Cole answers. They travel until the sun melts into copper behind the hills. Dusk finds them near Martha's Valley. The windmill still turns. Light spills from her windows, soft and alive. Cole exhales. She's safe. They stable the horses behind the shed. Martha opens the door before they knock. "I heard thunder that didn't smell like rain," she says. "So what did you bring me this time? Fire or ghosts?" "Both," Cole says. "We need your telegraph." She looks past him to Aiyana and Tali, then to the dust-caked wagon. "That thing looks like it crawled through hell." "Close enough," Cole says. "Wire Harper at the Marshal post in Liberty. Use the name Freeman." She arches a brow. "Blacksmith Freeman?" "He's dead if the smoke says true," Cole says flatly. "That's why the Marshal gets his proof now." She nods once, disappears into the back room. Tapping follows, quick and sure. Aiyana leans on the counter, eyes distant. "If Harper believes it?" "He'll come," Cole says. "He's one of the few who ever did." Outside, wind hits the shutters. Martha returns. Message sent. If he answers, it'll be after midnight. You're staying put until then. Cole hesitates. That makes this place a target. It already was, she says. They search everywhere but where they're expected. You 3 look like exhaustion in boots. Sit. They eat bread, beans, drink bitter coffee. Tali nods off against the wall. Aiyana cleans her rifle again, motions precise. When this ends, she says softly, what happens to the land? You mean yours? Ours, she corrects. Your name bought half the valley. My father's buried on the other. Then it's the same ground, Cole says. We just dig from different sides. She studies him, something unreadable behind her eyes. And when the digging's done, we build fence, but not the kind that keeps people out. The moment hangs between them like smoke that refuses to leave. Martha clears her throat. Romance later. Telegraph now. The machine clicks from the back room, sharp and urgent. Martha disappears, returns holding a folded slip. Message from Liberty. Marshal Harper's alive and listening. He says meet at the ferry outside town 2 nights from now. Bring evidence. He'll send men north. Cole takes the note. Then that's our road. Aiyana nods. We'll ride at dawn. Not before rest, Martha says. The dead don't make good witnesses. She heads upstairs muttering about coffee and fools. Cole sits near the door, revolver across his lap. Outside, night hums with crickets. In the distance, a coyote answers another. Aiyana leans her head against the wall, eyes half closed. You ever think about what you'll say when they ask who started this? The truth, he says. That a blacksmith lit the match, a woman carried the fire, and an old fool refused to drop it. That's enough truth for any court. She almost smiles. He watches the lamplight flicker over her face, soot still clinging at her temple. You should sleep. If I dream, I'll see smoke, she says. Then dream of iron instead. Iron breaks too. Not if you cool it right, he says. She looks at him, the glow of the lamp cutting copper through her hair. Promise me we finish what Isaiah started. I promise, he says, even if it kills us. Then it's fair trade. Outside, thunder rumbles faintly over the ridge, dry thunder, no rain. Cole watches the horizon through the window slit, the flash painting mesquite in silver for an instant. Storm coming, he mutters. Always, she replies. A horse snorts on the road and they freeze. Martha snuffs the lamp and steps to the door with a scattergun low. Hoofbeats drift closer. A knock. She cracks the door 2 inches. Kitchen's closed. A deputy's voice leaks in with dust. Bad blaze in town. Sheriff wants eyes open. My eyes work fine, Martha says. Anyone ride through here with a freight box? Only the wind and bills do. A pause. Leather creaks. A match flares. The man peers past her shoulder. Cole's finger tightens, but Martha shifts, blocking the view. Light hurts moths, she says, and men who fly too close to other folks' business. The match dies. Boots scrape. The riders turn their horses. Sheriff will come back with questions, the deputy says. Bring him coffee, Martha answers, and shuts the door. In the dark, they breathe again. She relights the lamp. Hide the wagon in the arroyo, she says. Cover tracks with sacking. Before dawn. Cole nods. Then Stone Loon Ridge. Aiyana asks. Only high path left, he says. And the only one no one sane takes with a storm on it. Good, she says. Let madness be our cover. She checks Tali's sleep, tucks the red scarf under his hand. Heat lightning pulses over the ridge. Cole studies the map, fixing turns he won't see in daylight. At first light we move, he says. We keep to rock where sign won't hold. Aiyana meets his eyes. Then listen hard. The house settles. Beyond the cottonwoods, a lone horse answers the storm with a stubborn whinny. The sound lands in Cole like a promise he will keep. Before the sky has a color, they ease the wagon into the arroyo and rake burlap over the wheel scars, breath fogging in the cool that comes just before a desert day decides to burn. Thunder mutters a county away, dry and patient. Martha hands Cole a paper-wrapped loaf and 2 cartridges she has no business owning. If you fall, fall forward, she says. Cole tips his hat. Aiyana squeezes Martha's wrist, brief and wordless, then swings to the bay. Tali, still small against the saddle, checks the little revolver Isaiah gave him and tries to look taller. They keep to rock where sign won't hold, moving along the creek's old bones until the water disappears into sand, then up a deer path that claws the ridge. Stone Loon lifts ahead, Gray shelves stacked like a giant forgot where to put them. Wind hums under the ledges. Far below, the valley is a map someone spilled coffee on, smears of cottonwood, a thin thread of river, Martha's windmill a pinprick. Cole points to a notch where the trail hooks. We take that. Fast. Aiyana studies cloud and light, counting the breaths between thunder and glow. Storm rides from the south, she says. If it catches us on the ridge, the washes will take the trail. Then we don't let it catch us. They climb. The mules plant their feet like old men thinking, then haul. Gravel clicks under hooves, skitters down slope in little avalanches that sound louder than bullets to people who want quiet. The sun finally shows, thin and mean behind gauze cloud. Heat won't be the worst of it today. Cole checks the sky again. The smear to the south fattened in an hour. Aiyana rides a little ahead, picking a line where the rock shows oldest and won't break. Tali keeps center, eyes tracing both flanks, the boy learning what a ridge demands. Drink, Cole says, passing a canteen without slowing. They sip, no more than a mouthful. The trail narrows to a shelf with air on both sides. Wind pushes hard, smelling of rain that hasn't yet chosen a place to fall. Aiyana signals with 2 fingers, stop, and drops to one knee, hand to stone. Listen, she whispers. They all do. Under wind, a low tremor like a wagon crossing plank, but wider, flatter, wrong. Water, she says. Flash. Not here yet, but close. Cole scans the cut east where a dry gully zigzags. He sees a line of dust too smooth for riders. Hurry, he says. We crest before it hits. They push. The shelf kinks, then spills them onto a wider bench beneath a lip of slate. Cole ties off and runs back to the mule, slaps its rump to steal 2 feet more. The first smell of wet earth hits like memory. Then the sound grows a body, roar without a mouth. Aiyana turns her face upslope. Down. The wall of water arrives the way lies do. All at once, full of debris. It doesn't reach them yet, but it takes the switchback below, tearing it clean. The path they used 5 minutes ago is gone, replaced by brown speed and mesquite tumble. Tali grips the reins until his knuckles ghost white. If we'd been... We weren't, Cole says. Thank whatever you talk to. Thunder speaks in a voice that hits the ribs. The south sky tears and stitches itself back together, bright for a heartbeat. Aiyana watches where the flood runs and where it leaves teeth marks. Trail forward still holds, she decides. But the saddle near the notch will go to Clay. Cole nods. His palm itches the way it did before charges in a war he doesn't revisit. We make the notch before the next surge. The ridge flattens into a field of broken pizza-sized plates that shift under weight. They lead on foot to spare the stock, boots sliding, curses short. Aiyana's braid whips and the red scarf, black side out again, chills where the wind finds sweat. A lone juniper clings to a seam with the stubbornness this country respects. Cole pauses a beat to pull breath and stare, one tree drawing a line against the void. Boundary, he says. She answers, Cam key, then tips her chin at Tali. Keep right of it. He does, touching bark with his fingers as if the tree were listening. When they reach the notch, the wind changes, shifts and drops like a tired thing, an omen as sure as bone crack. No wind means the front is on them. Aiyana leads into the saddle and the ground gives a little, then a little more, then decides it hates this weight. Lighten, she snaps, and Cole pitches the feed sack and a coil of fence wire. Tali hesitates with a tin box in his hands. What's that? Cole asks. Mother's ash, Aiyana says, not looking. His hands move without thought. Keep it, he says, as if the world would obey. The saddle slumps on its left edge, a fresh crack opening like a dry mouth. Cole drives the mule with his voice alone, low and mean, and the animal makes a decision people rarely do, forward into the gaining shake. They clear the worst of it, breath loud and stupid in their own ears. Rain starts not as drops but as sheets, horizontal, salt-hard. Visibility goes to a rope's length. The ridge vaporizes into shadow shapes. Caves, Aiyana calls. There. She points to a darker slit under an overhang. It's barely a room, but 3 bodies and a mule fit if nobody minds being somebody else's heat. They shove inside as the next wave slams the shelf, and stones rattle like dice. The air changes to rock and damp and something older, old smoke, old hands. Cole strikes flint. A small flame finds twigs and tells them it will live if they feed it. They feed it. Steam rises from coat and hair. Lightning flares and the cave lip prints its bones for an instant. Tali coughs, a hitch that wants to be fear. Aiyana wraps the tin box in her scarf and tucks it under her coat. Cole sees the motion and pretends not to. Storm talk fills the gap where people might say too much. It booms and hisses and scrapes around the cave mouth. Twice a close crack makes the mule thrust its shoulder into Cole's back. He plants himself like a post. They wait the way men wait for verdicts. Time goes soft. When the worst of the white water eases to chocolate sound, Aiyana finally speaks in a tone that doesn't carry blame but doesn't spare truth. When I said my father's buried on the other side, she says, I meant his body. The rest of him is here. She taps the tin. He died on Stone Loon, 10 winters back. A blizzard like this, but colder. He left to bring back a boy who ran off to prove courage and prove nothing. He found the boy. He didn't find the way home. Tali stares at the fire. The cave doesn't shrink or grow. It just holds. Cole's mouth goes dry with a cotton that has nothing to do with weather. I didn't know. You were not the sheriff then, she says. Or the judge. Or the men who called it misadventure and kept the map. She folds her hands over the tin as if warmth could go through metal into what ash remembers. But you rode with Hayes, she adds. The name is a small iron dropped in quiet. Cole takes it in the chest as if somebody finally put a bullet where years said one should be. Hayes, the scout with the easy grin and the extra pay who swore he knew the passes, who laughed about soft-footed people who didn't write their names on paper. Cole swallows. I did. The wind worries the cave mouth and then forgets it for a moment. His words sound strange in the bleed between thunder. I put my name under his report, he says. Said the winter claim at Dry Elk was abandoned. Said corrals meant rustlers. Said the pass was open enough for a small herd if you drove them light. He lets the water in his voice show. Because I wanted my men out of the cold, and because I wanted the bonus. Tali's eyes come up, bright with something like hate and something like hunger for a shape to aim it at. Aiyana's face doesn't change, except that her eyes go the way the sky goes when a front finally stops pretending. And the raid near Tombstone? She asks. He doesn't blink. Hayes planned it. Spoke a little Apache he learned to impress women. Painted boys brown with ash and grease. Rode them through a settlement at dawn. Fired over roofs so the story would outrun the truth. Took cattle during the smoke. Sold the paper to Hargrove and bought whiskey with the difference. He looks at Tali because people who have done wrong should have to look while they speak. I didn't ride that day. I signed when the papers came back clean and the desk wanted ink. He tastes iron. I never saw the truth until Rock Hollow. Until you screamed and I heard it cut through a house my ghost built. The storm has the courtesy to go quiet for the 3 heartbeats that follow. Then it remembers its work and slaps rain across stone. Aiyana sets the tin down, the way someone sets a sleeping child, where they will not roll. She pulls her knife and lays it across her palm, edge toward herself. In our tongue we say the wind carries wrongdoing as song, she says. It follows you until you answer it. She closes her fist over the blade and doesn't bleed. You answered. She looks for the first time like she might be tired of iron. It doesn't make bones unbreak. It makes the trail straight. Tali's jaw clenches, then loosens. Hayes still alive? Maybe, Cole says. Men like that live longer than they should. His voice turns to gravel. If I see him, I'll kill him. Not for me. For every name he sold and every name I wrote. Outside, the water drops to a stubborn trickle. Aiyana moves to the cave mouth and peers out. The world moved 2 inches to the left. The switchback they plan to take has a new scar. Clouds thin enough to show the shape of the moon behind them, a pale coin bitten on one side. She breathes once, deep and deliberate. We go, she says. They step back into the day that became another day without asking. The air after a storm smells like metal and green, the first kind teasing the second like a promise. Footing is mud on stone, treacherous in a way that feels personal. They take time they can't spare to go slow. The ridge falls away to the north in stair steps. Coyotes stand on distant shelves and watch like they were paid to count. When they reach the crown where the spine thins to a dozen paces and the whole county opens like a bad map, a horse on the southern rim screams a warning. Men appear on the skyline, black cutouts against a sky that can't decide if it wants to bless or punish. 6, maybe 8. One holds a long glass and shows the sun his face. Even at this distance, Cole recognizes the set of a bully who thinks paper makes him God. Not Thornton. He doesn't ride edges in weather. A deputy. Cross, or one of his teeth. They're on the high, Tali says. They'll try to box us. We're faster on the narrow, Cole says, but the ridge doesn't care. The men above fire, shots falling short in puffs of dust. Aiyana holds up the rifle and doesn't return. Wind, she says. Waste nothing. Lightning stitches the far horizon without noise, as if writing a word you don't get to read yet. Cole scans left and right, calculates as only men who have lost do. The saddle beyond, safe. The chute beyond that, loose. The drop after, fatal if you aim wrong, nothing if your feet are honest. He makes a call. Dismount. Lead quick. When I count 3, we run the spine and take the chute. Eyes on feet, not on sky. And them? Tali jerks his chin to the silhouettes with guns. Cole thinks about all the days he might have had if he'd counted slower back when he was 25 and stupid. They bleed like we do, he says, but the ridge loves nobody. He draws the Colt and fires 2, not to hit, but to make men look without seeing. 1, he says. Then at 2, the wind gusts, and for a second, the ridge becomes a throat, and they are breath. 3. They move. Boots slither, hands grab rock. The mule snorts an opinion and goes anyway. Shots kick dirt. A bullet fizzes past Aiyana's hip and kisses stone with a mean spark. She doesn't flinch. Tali loses a toe's worth of balance and gets it back with a curse that proves he's alive. They hit the chute and slide, controlled fall, gravel singing. The deputy's men try to follow on the skyline, and one horse missteps and goes to its knees. Rider pinwheels and saves it with luck that will fail him later. Aiyana reaches the bottom first and turns, rifle up. Cole herds the mule into the shadow of a boulder. The deputy's crew appear above the chute mouth, faces mean. Aiyana finally fires. The lead man jerks, hat jumping, then grabs for his reins and sits. Ear, she says, satisfied. Next one gets less mercy. The men waver. Storms make cowards honest. Cross, or his twin, shouts something about bounty and law, but the wind steals nouns and keeps only noise. Cole steps out from the rock and lets them see his face. You chase us to Stone Loon and call it law? He calls. Tell your sheriff he's hunting witnesses now. A shot answers, closer. Cole ducks back. Fine, he mutters. We witness faster. They angle west along a rib that remembers being a river 1,000,000 years ago. The ground firms. The smell of flood fades. Far below, a line of cottonwoods marks the path to the Liberty Ferry, a green scar that means men will come and ask names. Aiyana lifts the tin under her coat and presses it once against her chest like checking a heartbeat. Tali touches the butt of his revolver and then his sister's elbow, the boy turning to iron at the right heat. Cole breathes dust that somehow tastes like rain and thinks of Isaiah's code. Keep moving. They do, until the deputy's silhouettes shrink and vanish behind a tooth of stone. Only then does Aiyana speak, voice low but clear, the oath-shaped kind of sentence people don't write because paper can't hold it. No more ghosts between us, she says. Cole nods and doesn't look away. No more. The wind hears and, for the first time all day, carries nothing. Dawn is a bruise along the cottonwoods when they come off the ridge and follow the green seam toward Hollow Creek, the water low and stubborn after last night's tantrum, horses placing their feet like men checking a floor they didn't build. The air smells of wet stone and mesquite sap, and Cole carries the map in his head while Aiyana listens to wind and Tali checks the back trail for that dangerous flavor of silence that means somebody's learned how to be quiet. By mid-morning, heat lifts off the gravel bars and the creek splits into thin braids around willow islets, a bowl-shaped bend that looks kind until you remember a bowl holds bullets as neat as water. Cole doesn't like it, says, fast through, and Aiyana says, fast is loud, so they split the difference and kiss the right bank at a trot, wagon tongue creaking, mules tossing heads, and that's when the sound goes wrong. The cicadas die mid-song, a magpie scolds and quits, and from the cottonwood shade on the far bank, a hat brim drifts an inch where no hat should be. Cole doesn't look, just says, down, and the first volley shreds leaves where their faces were, bark spits, water kicks like a pan of grease, the mules scream, and the world collapses into angles and seconds. They yank the wagon by its tongue until the frame kisses a boulder. Cole snaps, rope, axle, here, and Aiyana is already knifing a shallow V-channel, pulling creek water into a thin curtain between them and the rifles. Tali flattens behind a wheel hub and breathes the count Isaiah taught for taming skittish horses, in on 4, out on 6, until hands stop shaking. Across the water 4, no 5, men show because numbers make men lazy. 2 more gleam high on the right ridge, one with a badge and a white neckerchief to keep dust off a lying mouth, not Thornton, but one of his teeth. Deputy Cross, by the way, his jaw bites words. Throw down the rifle. Hart. Arson and murder. He yells, and Cole answers without looking. I'm wanted for making you work before noon, and flicks 2 into the left cottonwoods so the man blinks instead of aims. Aiyana taps his boot twice, flank, and he nods. She slides belly low into the current, lets it carry her 5 yards to a root mouth under a willow, a black vignette that eats a body whole. Rifle bore becomes a shadow among shadows, and she waits the way land teaches and grief finishes. On the right ridge, a glint betrays a scope. Tali whispers, high limb, 3rd branch, and Cole sights under the leaves, slower than 25 but steadier, squeezes. The glint dies. A voice goes brittle where blood meets air. Another deputy jerks a shot wide. Tali clips his boot heel, and the man sits with surprise. The creek is their friend for a minute, and then it won't be because upstream dust slides smooth across the bank, Another squad, faces you'd forget in an hour, and guns you wouldn't. 8, at least, and the shape in the middle worth more than the rest. Judge Hargrove atop a gelding too fine for this ground. Summer coat, watch chain like a tame snake. He holds a handkerchief to filter a world he dirtied. He sees the wagon and finishes the math, mouth bending into a small, joyless curve. There you are. Hart, he calls, voice swollen with habit. By warrant of this district, fraud, trespass, willful destruction, lay down arms and submit. And Cole laughs once because the other option is to spit. Property burned itself trying to escape you, he says. Hargrove's eyes flick annoyance toward Cross, the way a diner frowns at a slow waiter. Cross pushes his horse to the water's lip, and the gelding hates the gravel. Cross jerks mean, and Aiyana takes his hat with one breath of iron and sand. Brim spins down the creek. Cross flinches, fires at the root mouth. Splinters spit 6 inches from her cheek, and she does not move. Cole leans, throws 2 across the far bank to keep heads down. Tali tracks a runner angling right and kisses his shoulder blade with lead. The rifle falls, and the man crawls back crying the quiet, angry cry of men unsure anybody will call them brave for staying. Rounds ping the wagon irons. One finds the brace bolt that hides Isaiah's welded secret, and the iron sings. Aiyana feels the old grief swell, swallows it into purpose. Left bank, she murmurs, and Cole trusts her eyes more than his since Rock Hollow. Hargrove decides to play law louder, unrolls a leather folio, and chews justice down to gristle, voice droning the way men sound who never ran out of breath. He makes words heavy so they fall on us, Aiyana says. Then we make lead heavier, Cole answers, shows himself a deliberate heartbeat, draws Cross's fire where Cole isn't. In that blink, Aiyana shifts water to root to water, river otter with a rifle, and plucks 2 from the right ridge. The bull inhales. Hooves scratch rock behind. Their bank now. 3 riders snake down the deer path they used, mustaches like brush, hats low, saddlebags stuffed with weight that doesn't jingle. They whoop too soon and throw too wild. Tali pops twice, cuts a saddle rope. A bedroll dumps and stumbles a horse into saving Cole's scalp by stealing the third man's aim. Closing, Tali says, and under the gun talk Cole catches a different sound, the blunt thunk of iron on wood, not fuse, not hoof. He gambles the hope that hurts. Isaiah? A voice rides the rock like a thrown flat stone. Keep their eyes where they ain't. And the world gets a new loud. A stripe of sparks leaps from the spur and rolls into cheatgrass like a fuse. Flame rises short and hot. Damp ground will starve it soon, but meanwhile it blinds men who trusted distance. 3 silhouettes break behind it, 2 riders with bedrolls as decoys, and 1 tall on foot with a sledge. Isaiah Freeman, with his shoulder wrapped in a torn sleeve and soot grinning over his teeth. He doesn't use the path. He jumps shelves like Stone taught him the steps. The sledge drops on a left bank rifle stock that was turning into a club above Aiyana's hole. Wood explodes. The man yelps, "Not fair!" And Isaiah's eyes go briefly sad before his elbow shoves the complaint into water. The riders are Martha's boys, Jory, who freckles where a beard won't, and Pike named for fish he used to steal before a year of stable shoveling cured that sin. Martha says you owe 3 coffees. Jory whoops and sprays hopeful lead, enough to make Cross blink. Pike slaps a tarred roll into the stream and smoke bellies up like a saint's halo and gnats. Isaiah! Aiyana calls, and he finds her with his eyes. One nod, Smith to Smith. Then he shoulders the sledge and drags the spooked mule to cant the wagon belly toward the worst angle. Iron remembers, he hollers. Gospel or nonsense, depending on the years in your bones. Hargrove isn't dumb about living. Fire. Town boys. A woman the paperwork was supposed to bury. None of it obeys him. He hisses. End it. And Cross slides behind a cottonwood, pushing 2 men low and slow toward the ford. A veteran creep. 1 shotgun, one with pistols in both fists. Down, Cole says, throws a spook shot. Tali nails the shotgun thigh. The burst goes into water and lifts a sheet that hides Aiyana a beat. When it drops, crosses on a knee with a hole to Cole and fires. The round kisses bark off the boulder, stitches splinters into Cole's cheek. Sap and salt bloom on his tongue. Colors go bright like winter marches. Left, Aiyana breathes, and he obeys without seeing. The bullet meant for his throat pings the iron brace where Isaiah hid the map. Tipping point isn't body count, but boredom with the judge's script. Martha's boys widen their screen with brush. Isaiah stacks stones at the wheel like a farrier talking balance to a lame hoof. He whistles a tune no church owns and, damn if the bull doesn't pause to listen. Even Hargrove's gelding calms half an inch. Parley. Hargrove tries because coin failed and breath is cheaper. You got a paper for that? Cole calls back. A federal seal, the judge crows. So do those ledgers you laundered, Isaiah says soft, private as an insult you save for truth. Hargrove's face ticks the way a man twitches when he sees his name in another hand. The lull is ere Aiyana spends well. She slips from the root cave, cold and low, crossing behind smoke to come up opposite cross. She sees him see Tali, watches him choose cheap blood over true testimony. His pistol lifts. She doesn't shout because shouting is wasted oxygen. One shot strips the gun from his hand and chips bone. He snarls. Left hand gropes for the other. Cole snaps a round that kicks it into gravel. Tali keeps sights on Cross's face and doesn't pull because he's learned stopping isn't ending. Thunder cracks tight overhead and the horses dance. Echoes roll like a crowd deciding whether to cheer. And on the west rim, a new thread of dust ghosts in, small, fast, the set of reins that says federal. Not the Marshal yet, but scouts from a man who keeps wires answered. 2 drop into the cut, carbines low, hats wrong for saloons and right for liberty. Hargrove clocks them, mouth flattens, not fear but accounting. He can lose now and still pretend later if he wheels quick. He wheels. Deputy, withdraw, like he invented the word. Cross bares teeth but obeys because salary bends spines. Men back out holding their anger like a bucket they won't spill on themselves. One curses witch water and trips. Another stares at his hat like it betrayed him. Isaiah gives a laugh shaped like a sob. Aiyana finally lets the rifle rest. Tali's arms shake now that need is over, and he hates the shake because it says boy when he wants iron. Pike taps Jory's hat brim. Hush, with more care than the word deserves. Cole doesn't grin. He walks to midstream with hands up, Spencer slung low so the scout won't write the wrong sentence with his gun. Ledgers and a judge's map welded in a wagon. He calls, sheriff on our back, and the scout reins, studies, says, name, like he half knows it. Hart, Cole answers, then the other that counts in rooms with flags. Isaiah Freeman, and the man's eyes cut to Isaiah with the kind of respect coin doesn't buy. Hargrove and Cross are already uphill dust. The bull keeps steam and breath and a creek that wants its life back. We move now, Cole says, voice raw, then looks to Aiyana because forward should be her shape. She nods, wrings water from her sleeve with the wrist wrapped in the black side of the red scarf. We take the proof. We take Tali. We go to liberty. And Isaiah says, leave a message, wading to the cottonwood cross used. 3 slow sledge blows drive a wedge of scrap into the wound, a bright sliver stamped with Hargrove's seal because Isaiah forged it from their bullets. The iron winks in runlight, a shrine to the day paper met metal. They lash brush to the wheels to break sign, haul the frame out of its hole until it groans and settles, hitch the mules, whistle them calm. Martha's boys scout ahead to scribble false tracks. The federal pair drift to the rear like a new kind of weather. As they climb out of the hollow, Cole looks back at the place that tried to be a grave and says the only sentence that fits his mouth now, not to the judge or the deputy or the wind, but to the woman, the boy, and the smith with the hammer. "We're not fugitives," he says, and the words don't shake. "We're witnesses." They take the west trace where cottonwoods shadow a slow bend toward the Liberty Ferry, mules leaning into the harness like they understand what iron remembers, wind tastes of alkali, telegraph poles cut the horizon like stitches that never healed, and all morning Aiyana watches roofs and alleys while Cole counts crossings by the map he carries in scar and bone, Tali riding quiet, hat brim low, the boy learning how silence is a tool. The ferryman is a one-eared veteran who asks, "Cargo?" And Cole says, "Shoes, bolts, and a bad mood," which earns them a cable song and river push, brown water shouldering the ferry like an argument. Liberty waits low to the ground, Main Street crouched under a sun that won't be told no. Freight teams clatter past, and on one canvas, Cole spots a Circle T painted over lighter paint, the lazy hand of a man who believes paper more than brand. They stable in a livery with missing boards, pay cash that doesn't ask questions, and walk to the Liberty Post and Express, door with a blue star punched in the glass, exactly as Martha wired. Inside it smells of ink and acid batteries. A clerk in sleeve garters jackhammers code, while a neat-handed boy copies numbers like prayer beads. Cole touches his brim and says, "Cattle quote east," which to right ears means back room. The clerk flicks eyes to a door and says, "Wires run faster warm," a lie polite enough to be a sign. In the back, a cold coal stove, a table, and a wall map where Liberty is a dot, and the rest of the world is a set of lines a man can die along. Marshal Harper waits there, lean, gray at the temples, badge on a chain like he doesn't care who sees it. Two deputies with the calm of fence posts, he says, "Hart," then "Ms. Nantan," with the care of a man who prefers getting one thing right to saying three things wrong, and after one breath he says, "You brought something." Isaiah's brace is under nail sacks, and Harper's Smith deputy has it open clean in minutes, weld peeled like a book spine, the ledger and map sliding into daylight with the weight of hours nobody paid for. Harper reads with a knuckle on ink, slow, not asking until he knows, then says, "Hargrove's hand, Circle T cadence. You'll both testify?" To Aiyana first, who says, "In Austin or a ditch, whichever the truth can live in," and to Cole, who says, "If a nail fits a wall, hang it." And Harper nods once like a judge who carries his own pen, reaches for the sounder to summon a federal courier, and the wire speaks first from the front. Riders, badge, second badge, freightman. The clerk's next click isn't code so much as warning. Trap. Harper's jaw sets. A deputy ghosts to the back seam, the other to a slit in the wall. Aiyana has the map rolled and tied. Cole settles the Spencer under the canvas coat so it reads, "Sore shoulder, not gun." The front door opens with that slow that starves a room of air, and Sheriff Gage Thornton comes in polite as a sermon, white hat scuffed tasteful, vest that used to be a finer cow, voice oiled, eyes that take inventory. Three men fan, cross makes four, anger wearing boots. "Marshal," Gage says, "false claims upriver, forged maps, vigilantes with a taste for fire," and Harper says, "You're late, like weather." "You're standing in my warrant space," he adds, and men like Gage never like learning where they're standing. "I'll wait outside." Gage smiles when told papers are federal and the young woman is under protection, which is a threat dressed as patience. When they leave, breath returns, but comfort doesn't. Harper taps a backwire, gets a promise of couriers by dusk, says, "We hold here." And Cole says, "Boxes are for counting bodies." Aiyana points a route on the wall, alley, tannery yard, church vestry, and Harper nods. They slip out into glare and lie stink. Tali scouts corners with two-finger signals Isaiah would approve, and the town tilts toward the freight yard because trains mean schedules, and schedules mean a place to die on time. Steam stacks breathe, pigeons clatter, A courier team in plain coats flashes federal, and Harper passes them the satchel with steel mouth and chain, and here comes the kind of sorrow that breaks tidy plans. The clerk with sleeve garters rounds a crate with rope and a face trying to be brave. The neat boy is behind him with ink on his fingers and fear on his lip. A man with a white neckerchief buys apples while never looking at anything but the chain. Hand over moved, north spur, the clerk says, and routines almost nod them right into a grave, but Aiyana hears the pause a liar needs to finish and says, "No," exactly like you tell a dog before it bites. Cole catches the rope wrist, the clerk blurts, "They have my sister," and Cross's shot takes him where love lives. The boy screams, apples roll like dice. Aiyana cuts down the neckerchief man, and Harper's "hold" lands between iron and heat as the yard becomes a book-catching fire. Gage walks through the spark haze calm as Sunday, gun low, grin soft and deadly. "Give me the satchel and I give you a day," he tells Harper, who says, "It isn't yours," and Cole says, "Gage," to tilt the hymn his way, fires and punches a hole through a fine coat where some men wear honor. Cross ghosts along boxcars toward the courier, lifts at the wrong back, and Aiyana moves before thinking. 2 shots, one cracks glass, one scrapes Cross's ear red. He swings on her, and Cole turns his barrel for him with a round in the shoulder. Cross's return goes wild and finds Cole instead, a nail of heat in his side that steals taste and time. Aiyana hauls him by the belt. "Stay with me," she breathes, "not dying here," and he answers, "Wasn't the plan." While Harper's men sweep the flanks, the courier dives under couplers and comes up on the far side with the chain still across his chest. Whistle screams like something being born. Pistons talk fast. Smoke scours the sun. Gage sees steel leaving and chooses street over court, snaps, "Pull out," and his men vanish into alleys like wolves into brush. Cross last, pointing 2 fingers from his eyes to Cole's like a child's curse. The neat boy kneels on a body that won't choose again, whispers a name no record will save. Harper kneels too and says, "We'll find her," to a family he's never met, and the boy nods because some lies are mercies you can't afford to check. Aiyana drags Cole into shade, tears cloth, says "through and through," packs whiskey and linen into the hole while his face goes slate and back again. "Hold," she says, sets his palm on the knot. "Let go and I break your ribs," and he tries a smile and the pain takes it. "Deming, then Austin," Harper tells the wire, "under cavalry if I can steal them." And to Cole and Aiyana, "You're under my colors whether you asked or not." "We didn't," she says. "Good. Keeps them guessing," he says. "He'll come on the road," Cole grinds. "Bridge, canyon, or church door," Harper answers. "I like the last. He won't." And he points them toward St. Agnes. They move through laundry alleys where surrender flags hang because wash day doesn't care about war. A woman upstairs sets a baby down careful and crosses herself for strangers. Bells strike the hour that says a meeting should have ended already. The priest at St. Agnes is young and looks older, broom like a staff in his hand. "Law?" he asks. "For once," Harper says, and the man opens the vestry that smells of beeswax and old paper and says, "Then this room prays for you," and shuts the door. Aiyana cleans again, binds again, breathes steady so he can borrow it. Tali stands guard with the revolver Isaiah gave him, and the tin tucked under his arm like a heart. Outside, the town pretends nothing happened, and then pretends it did. Wheels turn, pigeons settle, a new clerk sits at a key, wondering why the wire feels heavier, and somewhere Thornton writes a different account for men who buy facts in bulk. Inside, Harper spreads the copied codes and pins the roots with tacks. Courier hits Deming by night, he says, and Austin in 5 if no one tries to change the map. His deputy sketches posts they'll need, 8 men, 2 at each door, horses under shadow, bell rope cut so panic doesn't come early. "He'll test the door," Aiyana says. "He'll test me," Cole adds, and Harper says, "Let him test iron," glancing at the brace now empty but faithful. Dusk lays copper on the pews. The priest brings water and a line from a book about truth walking. Even when roads are bad, nobody argues. Tali slips to the side porch, watches street lamps blink one by one, watches crosses blood thread dry on the plank that leads toward the freight yard, watches a shadow stop and leave a chalk mark on a railhead, an arrow and a crossbar, a sign some gangs use for easy pickings and some for ambush. He rubs it out with his heel, comes back with eyes older. "They'll try the telegraph again," Aiyana says, and Harper nods. "We own the back key now." Then to Cole, softer, "You shot clean, but next time you shoot to live." "I did," Cole says. "That's why I'm here." And Aiyana's mouth quirks, because the old man still has teeth. Night gathers without rain. A windog runs the street and loses interest. The wire ticks like a small hard heart, and then goes quiet, too quiet. Footsteps scrape, stop, scrape, stop. A hinge breathes. The priest's hand tightens on the broom. Harper lifts 2 fingers, and every man breathes shallower. The latch lifts a 1/4 inch and settles back like a cat deciding which mouse it wants. "Not tonight," Harper says, to the door, to Gage wherever he sits counting, to the town that thinks law is a room and not a road. Then the night exhales and the room remembers it is safe for the length of a prayer. Aiyana ties the last knot on Cole's bandage and presses her forehead to his temple for one breath, because rooms allow what roads don't. "Stay with me, old man," she says, voice thin with something she never offers strangers, "until the end." And he answers, "Until the end," which is a line the wind will carry, whether anyone writes it down or not. Dawn smells of disinfectant and sweat in the makeshift infirmary at St. Agnes, where Cole wakes to the taste of dust and iron in his mouth, and Aiyana bent over him like a sentinel who has outlived all her trusts. The bandage at his side is damp and warm. Tali sits on a crate with his revolver across his knees and looks like a boy who has been given an old man's sorrow. Martha moves through the vestry with the efficiency of someone who has learned to make medicine out of what the world throws away: whiskey for cleaning, sage for swelling, linen for pressure. And Isaiah, who limped in before dawn carrying a crate of tools and the smell of burnt oil under his coat, stands by the window watching light lift the dust as if he expects it to spell out the rest of their lives and be done with it. Cole tries to smile, and the pain reminds him he isn't owed that pleasure. He coughs, and Aiyana's hand is on his wrist, like a promise. "You slow," she says, voice small. "Too stubborn to quit before you learn the right hurt." He swallows, answers in a cracked thing that might be humor. "Took lessons." And the room rearranges itself into the practical, what we need, what we can spare, who goes where, and the plan that has been folding itself behind every shot and every burned fence finds its first clear breath. Make Hargrove's and Thornton's corruption indisputable in a public place they cannot buy. Isaiah hums as if the idea itself is a Smith's song, and from his mouth it becomes a job with measurements. Forge bullets stamped with the judge's seal, mark them with the Circle T cadence, and let those bullets be the language a courtroom cannot misread. Martha clicks her tongue and says, "You want a riot, then a trial." And Cole says, "I want the ledger to be a map that points at the men who bought it, because paper alone can be altered, but lead remembers the hand that struck it." And in that room, they begin to build a weapon that looks like proof and smells like fire. They move like a band with purpose, Isaiah to the forge to file, stamp, and anneal. Martha to the pantry for coffee strong enough to keep a man from sleeping through the wrong hour. Harper sends a wire that promises cavalry should the freight go dark, and the legal machinery begins to tide toward them, but they know law will move slow while men with money act with speed, so they must force a moment where the two meet and cannot be bent. Isaiah sets up a temporary shop in the lower crypt of St. Agnes, where the cool stone keeps metal calm. His hands are black with soot, as if the work has already demanded toll. He lays out a set of bullets of the right caliber and the wrong idea. Each one bears a tiny stamp. Isaiah punches himself, the design a crude echo of the judge's seal turned in iron. The faces of the bullets bright as coin before heat darkens them. The plan is savage in its simplicity. Craft a batch of rounds that could be traced by hammer marks back to Hargrove's office. Isaiah knows the judge kept a private stamp, a small thing the judge loved because seals make a man feel continued after he's gone. then fire them from a rifle that cannot be claimed by any of them. Make the wound say who paid for it. Isaiah works slow. The bellows breathes, and Aiyana lingers close watching, her fingers moving through the air as if she could learn the pattern of the metal by touch alone. And when Tali asks why they must mark bullets with a judge's face, she hears the economy of men in her answer and gives him the short truth. Because paper lies to a man who likes money, lead does not. While the bullets cool, Harper brings tradesmen and 2 plain-clothed deputies who nod at the pieces like they have seen a dozen proofs in worse towns. Marshal Harper himself sits sober and far less theatrical than when he offers threats, his face a map of places that have cost him sleep. "We don't want blood," he says, "but we need undeniable cause. If Thornton calls for court, we'll have a county that can't buy the silence." Cole tastes the weight of the promise and feels the iron in his palm as if it were a second pulse. They must also bait Thornton, draw him into a place where the evidence and the law overlap. Martha argues the moral side, the damage to innocence if anything goes wild. Isaiah argues the practical, set the bait where witnesses can see and men who buy truth would be forced to answer. Aiyana draws the map with charcoal across a pew. A stage transfer at the old river bend where the ferry used to dock, not the Liberty Ferry, but the narrow, shallow crossing the county ignores now because it is slow. Thornton will prefer the river route because he believes hunters like the quiet of a place no one measures, and he knows how to make a panic that smells like riots, so men will give him cover. They decide to send a letter, a provocation disguised as greed. Martha's hands write the note with the same blunt script she uses to tally grain. A forged telegraph delivery request indicating a change of custody for a satchel containing Circle T manifests and a note that promises cash in hand if the handover waits until dusk at the old river bend. The telegraph will be short and clean and passable, the kind of sentence that makes a man think he's been consulted rather than trapped. Harper sends the wire through his own channels, but delays the courier publicly, making it look like an administrative snafu while the telegraph hums its lie into the county wires. The trick is timing. Isaiah will have finished the stamped bullets. They will hide them inside the wagon brace again, this time a false brace to be opened publicly when Hargrove or Thornton or both demand to see papers. The bullets will be discovered by a marshal and photographed by a federal photographer Harper insists on bringing, so the story becomes both blood and images and cannot be bought by a judge's ledger. The night before, Aiyana walks the river bend alone, red scarf folded black side out against her palm, listening to the creek gossip about rocks and reading the bank like a ledger. She finds a place where driftwood shapes a partial shelter, sets a small fire, and thinks through contingencies. If Thornton brings only his teeth, they will snag him with the forged telegraph and a visible exchange. If he brings Hargrove, the judge will appear with a paper and a smile, and they will open the brace, and the bullet stamped with his seal will be proof the judge's hand ran from ledger to lead. If the law moves slowly, Harper's men will have photographs and a witness list and a courier in custody. If Thornton brings guns big enough to bury the river, they will have marshals who answer to a federal word and towns who will wake up. She rehearses the shots in the dark like prayers. At the forge, Isaiah hums a song that is half prayer and half instruction. Sparks fly as he stamps one bullet, then another, until the pile of stamped rounds looks like a small church of lead, and when he anneals them, the metal shifts color like a throat clearing. Martha inks a letter and sends it through a chain of hands the way you send a secret when you don't trust the post. Harper flags the courier to move slow, to take the bait at dusk, and meanwhile he positions 2 scouts under the river lip in coats that aren't official, men who know how to hold a shot and how to hold their breath until ordered. Cole rides the route by day to leave obvious sign that a satchel will be there, broken brush, a dropped bootlace, a trail of mule dung, things a man like Thornton thinks will guarantee his men's confidence. At night they smudge and double the tracks to confuse the latter's trackers, Aiyana teaching Tali how to flip a boot heel to lie about the weight of a hoof. The smallest parts of their plan require the largest faith. That a judge will choose to be seen because he believes reputation is stronger than truth. That Marshal Harper will not be tempted by a crooked ledger even for a day's profit. That Cole will not die before he makes a testimony that matters. Dawn of the action hour, they lace the satchel with the welded ledger copy and the map and slide it into a public face, an unlocked wagon brace left purposely visible, while the real brace with the forged rounds rides in another wagon further down the bank. The courier arrives on time because a telegraph told him to, and because men who move in the dark think they've outsmarted daylight. Thornton's riders appear like vultures because greed smells of iron and men. They take the bait. 2 riders, careful, trusting the false comfort of numbers. Aiyana is the shadow in the roots, and when the handover begins, she moves like an idea. Quick, clean, and unarguable. The Marshal's man photographs the brace being opened, the image crisp and terrible with proof of chain and seal. Then the other brace is demanded. Hargrove steps out from the bank like a slow sun, his face a compass of calm, and when the judge opens the false brace, Aiyana's bullets spill, and the stamp bites the light. There is a sound a courtroom will know, the sound of a man's name landing in metal, and the photographs keep the sound from being a rumor. Thornton rages and tries to move the men to cover. Cross, already a live wire, lunges for a courier's gun and is cut down by a clean shot that is not theirs, but the Marshal's. Harper's hand is methodical, yet the scene is messy enough that men who bought silence try to buy it again with pistols. Fire lights where it should not. Aiyana answers with a single line she had promised, a promise that is also a threat. Let him chase the wind. We'll make it bleed. The river keeps its old patience. The land takes the stains and records them in furrows. Men will write speeches about who did right and who did wrong, and some will bend the facts. But in the end, the photographs, the stamped lead, and the Marshal's courier together create a net the county can't cut through with coin. Cole feels the hot press of victory like a bruise, costly and true. He tastes iron, and it no longer means only the past. It means accountability. Fog comes like a thief off the low ground and lays itself over the blackened fence rails until the ranch looks like a map somebody erased wrong. The ash yard drinks sound. Horses snort steam that turns to ghosts and drifts away, and in that gray Cole feels the old house breathe under his palm as if the beams remember names. They chose this place because men like Gage Thornton think victory tastes sweeter where their enemies were born, and because Aiyana said the wind would tell them first if the riders came. She is right. It does. A thread of leather and camphor on the air, lamp oil under that, then the sweet rot of wool left wet too long. Tali stiffens on the porch rail with Aiyana's little revolver in his lap, a boy's jaw set in a man's angle. Martha stands in the doorway with a scattergun and eyes like she intends to collect on all the coffees they owe. Aiyana kneels behind the wagon tongue, where he hammered iron into oath and wedges a chisel into earth like a stake. They'll split on the draw, Cole says, voice low. 2 on the arroyo lip, 4 through the cottonwoods, cross-crawling where a snake would. And Aiyana answers, and Thornton where everyone can see him, then ties the red scarf over her braid, black side out, because the morning wants to steal color. Watch the left, she adds. Fog holds there, and the last of the night peels away to show silhouettes that were trees and aren't, and shadows that were fog and aren't, and the first volley tears the quiet into threads. They fall to positions set last night with rope and sweat and bad dreams, Aiyana at the toppled hayshed, Cole behind the broken water trough where the clay is high enough to catch ricochet, Aiyana low at the forge step, Martha anchored at the door. Guns crack like the ribs of a dry house when you stomp too hard, splinters and cinder spit. The claybank mare screams in the corral and then is quiet. Aiyana's first shot takes a man's hat and his courage with it. Cole's first takes a stirrup leather, so a horse throws a fool into the ash and he becomes a warning shape for the rest. Cross howls from the cottonwoods, the sound edged by the memory of his ear. "Bring me the girl and the ledger," he yells, as if words can drag bodies, and Aiyana's reply is not a sentence but a single hard breath that turns into a second shot and chips bark near his mouth to let him taste the tree he hides behind. The fog thickens when they fire, gunsmoke joining ground mist, and the yard contracts to 20 paces of world you can swear is all that exists. The rest might as well be God's dream. Thornton doesn't come yet, because men like him never arrive until the crowd has already named the story. His riders do his blood work first. They circle, test, spend men like nails. 2 try the north wall and meet Isaiah's chisel when he swings it into a shin bone with the precision of a farrier. 1 falls. The other shoots blind and hits the dead man and decides that is enough mourning for him. "Left!" Martha calls, voice dry and exact, and Cole pivots, puts 2 into the fog where the call points. A shape jerks and flaps and doesn't get back up. Martha racks and feeds like she's been doing this her whole life, and maybe she has in ways that didn't take bullets. The cottonwoods spit cross back out, and he scuttles along the downed rail like a crab whose shell never fit. He pops up mean and fast, and Aiyana drops low to let his round go to where she was. Mud leaps. Her return is slower and cleaner, and he loses the hat she just made him steal. He curses a word so small it has no echo. The first rush fails, and the second comes with fire. Oil bottles lobbed low, a spark catching old boards, wind licking up flame with the greedy little tongue it saves for mornings like this. "Not the house," Cole orders, and they work the pump with the rhythm of people who have bailed themselves out before. Bucket line that is 4 people in fury. Aiyana slaps a wet tarp on the porch beam and steam scalds her hand. She doesn't bother to count. The fog glows orange and then white and then dies in a hiss. The men outside call it a good try and take breath for the next. Somewhere a rider laughs and chokes on his own smoke, and that is justice enough for 10 seconds. Then Thornton arrives, not by sound, but by arrangement. His horse black-maned and tossing, bit silver enough to catch what sun there is. He rides into the gate like a man getting off a train by mistake and deciding the mistake belongs to the station. "Hart," he calls, voice pleasant as if they share a fence line and a neighborly grievance. "Marshal says you got yourself a box of lies. Why don't you come show me the craft?" Cole answers by standing where he can be seen and not shot easy, by letting his shadow be a man and not a target. "Box is in Austin by now," he says, "which is east of your money and north of your nerve." And the fog chooses that moment to lift enough that everyone can see everyone, and that is when blood becomes honest. Thornton lifts a hand and men move, clean as cattle through a gate they've run thrice for practice. 4 to the right under the scorched roof line, 3 to the left where the well curb offers stone, 1 straight down the mouth of the yard with a cloth-wrapped torch that hisses like a snake that's tired of warning. Cross stays glued to the cottonwood like he thinks trees have laws. And behind the lot of them, Hargrove is not present because he learned at Hollow Creek what iron on a cottonwood means. It is numbers now and ground, and they don't have numbers, so they make ground, and Aiyana makes it first. She moves along the burned wall, fast and low, her shadow combing ash, her rifle a part of her back when she needs both hands. She reaches the trough lip and signals Tali with 2 taps to the planks. The boy breathes 1 more time like Isaiah taught, and then he stands just enough and takes the torchman in the knee so the flame falls short and eats dust. The torchman screams a phrase that wants to be a prayer, and Aiyana finishes him because prayers like that make bad mornings worse. Cole sees the left push reaching the well curb and lobs a shovel full of mud into the man with the shotgun because sometimes the old ways work best. The man blinks and then blinks forever. Isaiah tries to flank through the forge mouth and catches a splinter of lead under the collarbone. He grunts the way men do when they will not give a bullet the pleasure of their name. Martha hauls him back by the belt and hands him a hammer because hands are happiest when they hold tools that tell them where to hit. Thornton rides the fence line now, not because it's tactically wise, but because men watch him when he does, and men who watch him don't watch the people who might kill them. He shouts about warrants and mercy and the full faith of his office, and none of that is windproof here. Cross finally finds the courage to be stupid. He sprints wagon to post to barrel and ends up a breath away from the porch. He peeks and sees Tali where a boy shouldn't be at a morning like this. He smiles the way boys without mothers learn to, raises the pistol at a slow kind of angle a soul should never see. Aiyana sees it like she has always been meant to, but a man on the left chooses that second to blind spray, and wood around her explodes, and she loses half a second to grit in her eye, and the world becomes the kind of math you do once and keep with you to the end. Tali pushes off the rail and into the shot that was Aiyana's, and the round takes him high and back, and his mouth makes a shape that is her name without air for it. He hits the porch rail and slides. His hat goes and the revolver clatters, and time goes clear and cold. Cross blinks because even men like him don't always intend to be that kind of monster in that kind of light, and that is his mistake, because Aiyana's second shot is now the first shot that matters, and it takes the pistol from his hand and part of the hand with it. He screams a high animal scream, and the cottonwoods hold it the way a church holds hymns when nobody is left to sing. She is already moving toward Tali. She folds without thinking and cradles him, red scarf slick, his eyes wide and wild and trying to find a star in daylight. "Sister," he says, or maybe song, or maybe nothing. His hand finds the tin under her coat, the small weight of their mother's ash, and he pats it as if settling a horse that shies. Then his touch drops, and the weight stays, and Aiyana makes a sound that doesn't belong to any language anybody who hasn't lost will ever learn. Cole steps into a part of himself he does not visit, because he does not like what lives there. He walks out from the trough into the open, where men die, and he invites them to try. "Gage," he calls, the name clean and cutting. "You took a boy you painted in lies, and now he's gone." And something in the way he says it makes even Thornton check his grin for a heartbeat. "Come down," Cole says, "or I come up." And he means it. Bullets chase his boots. One lines his coat like a tailor who hates him. Another brushes his ear and gives it a new shape. He keeps walking because the ground asked him to, and because Aiyana is holding a boy who shouldn't be a story yet. Thornton dismounts because men who rule stories sometimes think they should act in them too. He steps into the yard, and the fog tears itself away as if the day wants witnesses. He holds his pistol low and ready the way a man who has bought practice does. "Cole," he says, "you're a man who understands how cattle move. This is a drive. I'm only pushing the herd." Cole says, "You're pushing graves," and fires, and the shot lifts dust at Gage's boot, but doesn't take the foot. Gage returns faster and cleaner, and stitches lead across Cole's ribs. The world tips and rights. Aiyana hears the impact and stands like a ghost stood up by its anger, and lays Tali down with a care that should be illegal in a world like this. Isaiah tries to move, and Martha keeps him from doing something brave and bad at the same time by saying no like iron. And the riders pull back a yard the way men do when two bulls lower their heads and decide whose bones will tell the next chapter. Cole breathes through linen and fire and steps again. "You sold the county its own teeth," he says, "and told it to bite itself." Gage smiles with his slow, holy man smile. "Truth belongs to men who can keep it," he says, and then Aiyana is there on Cole's flank. Not behind, never behind, with a rifle that looks too small for the noise it makes. No more ghosts. She tells the air because the boy deserves the line. Thornton turns toward the phrase because words draw him even more than bullets. Cole sees the shoulder roll before the barrel rises, and he does what old soldiers do who remember a better version of themselves. He fires not at the chest, but at the gun. The Colt cracks and rips leather and hits steel, and Gage's pistol goes wide and hits his own horse in the flank, and the animal screams and surges and crushes Cross, where Cross crouched, and there is no more cottonwood cover, only meat and hooves and a shape that never aims again. Gage staggers and reaches for the backup gun that rich men keep where poor men keep breath. Aiyana's shot clips the gun out of fingers and sends it spinning into ash, and Cole closes in and puts the muzzle an inch from a mouth that has told too many versions of one story. "You can't write this one," Cole says, and Gage laughs because he has made a life of laughing when mercy would have saved him. "The truth was never yours to keep," he whispers, and he is right in a way that damns him, because the truth always belonged to the ground and the wind and the people who bled on both. Cole lowers the barrel enough that the shot isn't an execution but a stop. He fires and the bullet finishes a man, not a myth, and the yard lets go of a breath it didn't know it held. The riders who still have breath and hate decide they like breath more. They wheel and vanish into fog like regret into drink. Martha steps out with the scattergun half raised and then not. Isaiah sags and then doesn't. The priest bell from Liberty drifts thin across the flats as if a town can sense when judgment falls 2 miles away. Aiyana kneels by Tali and presses her forehead to his until they share one breath and then none. She ties the red scarf around the tin under her coat, not new and deliberate. She stands with her face carved down to the part that is all bone and vow. Cole sways and she catches him, and this time she says it first, "Stay with me." And he says, "I owe you that." And they hold each other up in the kind of morning a canyon keeps a long time. The fog thins enough to show flags coming up the road, federal blue and civilian brown, and the kind of dust that means the rest of a day will be paperwork and witness lists and men measuring where to put a gallows and where to plant a tree. Cole looks at the burned posts and the new light and the places where blood has already turned to brown and says what a man says when he realizes there are no clean years left, and that is all right. "We did not run," he tells the house and the ground and the piece of sky that stuck around to watch. "We stood," and the wind answers by moving heat off their faces, which in this country is the same as a blessing. Somewhere beyond the cottonwoods, a creek talks on about rocks as if it never learned the word for sun. The mare with the black mane paces along the fence line and settles, and the ash yard at last becomes only a yard again, except for the wedge of iron Isaiah hammered into the forge step years ago that still shines a little because iron remembers, and because today, for once, the right people will too. The wind moves slow again, and weeks have scraped the noise off the land until even crows whisper. Thin green stripes return where ash once ruled. The barn keeps half a roof, the fence runs crooked, the well gives clean water, and the ranch breathes like something deciding to live. Cole sits on the step with a tin cup, habit eyes still checking the horizon though no riders come now, the scar at his ribs tugging when he leans, a company he didn't ask for but keeps. Aiyana binds a rail with new rope, hands smelling of pitch, humming a tune that keeps ghosts polite. Tali's grave rests by the oaks. Martha cut his name with Isaiah's chisel, shallow but certain, and every morning Aiyana leaves creosote because its scent holds longest. Cole built the fence himself, 2 rails, straight as he could. "A man's last house should stand like his first," he once said, and she only nodded because some truths don't need reply. Harper rode east with the proofs. The photos and ledgers now live in a courthouse where men argue for pay. Hargrove sits in a cell whose walls don't listen. Thornton's riders have scattered to cattle under other names, and the county pretends it was never blind, its own kind of healing. Isaiah's forge burns again. His step hitches. His tune doesn't. Martha rebuilt her way station from dead wagons, brings coffee, sugar, and rumors of rail to the south. You'll hear a whistle again. She grins. "If it don't spook the horses," Cole says, and Aiyana's quiet laugh tells him he's home. Afternoons taste of dust and new bread. They eat outside when the light turns amber. Aiyana tends the cast iron that survived both flood and fire. Cole fixes tools between bites. "Never thought the end of the world would leave chores," he says. "End of the world happens every week," she answers. "We keep sweeping." At dusk, they ride the fence, the claybank mare slow. The black-maned stray, found limping by the river weeks after, follows Aiyana without rope. Now he lets Cole touch his neck sometimes, and that's enough forgiveness for one life. One evening the sky folds copper and blue, rain an hour off in the smell. Aiyana brings a wooden box, sets it on the gatepost. Inside lies the red scarf washed clean but deeper than water. He would want it up, she says. Cole nods, and together they tie it to the gate where first light lands. The cloth lifts, red against pale grass, neither flag nor warning, just endurance. Doesn't look like much, he says. It's enough, she answers. For who? Whoever needs to remember. And they stand with the wind through cedar and frogs starting along the creek. The soundtrack of peace here, uneven, human. Harper's last note lives folded in Cole's pocket. Truth delivered. Justice signed. Live free. He reads it again, though words don't change. Guess we did it, he says. No, she shakes her head. We started it. The rest is what we build. Dusk turns the burned timbers silver. She sets a lantern on the porch. For him, he asks, meaning Tali and every name the wind still carries. For us, she says, so we don't stumble walking home, and they eat in silence from one plate. After, her hummed song has no words, maybe forgiveness learning a language. When the storm breaks, it's gentle, tapping tin, rinsing boards. Cole steps under the eave, palms open, Aiyana beside him, braid darkening. You think we'd see it this quiet? She asks. Didn't think I'd see it all, he says. Lightning sketches hills quick and shy, and the scarf flares like a flame that forgot how to hurt. The air after is sharp and clean, the moon a thin new coin over the ridge. They walk to the fence where water beads rails. Cole touches the scarf. Red suits this land blood, clay, sunsets. And she adds, promises, then looks at the east road. One day you'll ride that way. Maybe, he says. Not tonight. Then we rest, she answers. Inside smells of wood smoke and coffee. He lowers himself to the chair where he once loaded bullets before dawn. She hangs her hat, pours 2 cups, still bitter, he says. Keeps you straight, she smiles, the words remembering themselves. Wind nudges shutters. A coyote calls far but kind. She lays a blanket across his shoulders and sits across, lantern making their shadows long and quiet. What will we call this place now? She asks. He watches the scarf through the window, red thread in silver dark. Home's enough, he says. Then we keep it, she replies. Rain returns soft, persistent, and his breath slows to match, the roof ticking like a watch that finally keeps honest time. Somewhere Isaiah's hammer counts a steady beat. Somewhere Martha's wheel hums toward daybreak. Somewhere a new clerk learns to weigh truth on paper without selling it. The morning after the Marshal's letter, they hitch the claybank and drag burned posts into tidy stacks, the way you make grief orderly so it quits tripping your feet. Isaiah arrives by noon with a wagon bed full of offcuts and rings the yard with the sound of a hammer that means future not war, his shoulder still stiff but his grin loose. Martha rides in behind with flour sacks and a coffee tin that rattles like luck. She eyes the new plank at the gate, taps it with a knuckle. Wind keeps its word. She reads, so do you two. And Cole answers, trying. And she says, then keep trying louder, leaving 3 letters from towns that used to look away and now pretend they didn't. Small requests that stitch a county back together, ironwork needed, beans to be bought, fence to be traded. Aiyana plants a young cottonwood near Tali's rails, thin but stubborn green. She packs soil with both hands, palms black, the scarf flashing at the gate each time wind rolls through. Isaiah files smooth a horseshoe and stamps a tiny star. Hang it so it remembers him without catching rain, he says. She nails it to the inside of the fence facing home because luck should look inward first. Cole adds a rail he hadn't planned and doesn't explain, as if work could be a second name for love. Afternoons settle into a rhythm that doesn't ask permission. He sharpens chisels. She mends tack. They pause to watch hawks stitch circles over the far ridge. When heat eases, they put seed in shallow furrows along the garden fence. She shows him where to lay squash and where to leave stones so water remembers to stop. He shows her how frost rides down the draw in autumn and how to read its fingers on grass, small trades of knowledge that taste like bread. Sometimes travelers pause at the gate, freighters, drifters, a widow with 2 boys and a mule that drinks like a preacher on payday. Each looks at the red cloth and asks the same question with different eyes. Aiyana answers with water and directions and no explanations. A few ask for work, and Cole gives them fence line and a fair count. One evening, a man with a faded Circle T burned faint on his boot heel stands too long, then says he's sorry to no one particular. Aiyana studies his hands, what they held and what they dropped, then points him at a stretch of sagging wire. Go fix something. He does, and when he leaves, he tips his hat at the scarf and doesn't meet her eyes, which is its own kind of learning. In the blue hour, she and Cole lead the black-maned horse to water. The animal dips, blows, and then rests its chin on the rail like it has decided to stay. We owe him a name, she says. Names are dangerous. Cole answers. They make you stay. She smiles. Then we risk one, and calls him River because he left and came back different and carries both truths without choosing. That night wet sage rides up from the south without rain, and the sky turns the color of copper hammered thin. Isaiah pulls a small stamp he cut from tool steel, the same crooked judge's seal he used on bullets that told on their maker, considers it over the porch rail, then shakes his head. Let this place stay clean, he says. Some iron doesn't need a mark to remember its promise. Martha flips open the scattergun, checks the empties, props it by the door. I'll swap this for a broom if you keep the road quiet, Aiyana answers. We're trying, and Martha nods at the scarf. I can tell, then rides away into a dusk that smells like supper. Full dark folds, and they light one lantern and talk about nothing. Whether wolves come down when snow crusts, whether trout hold after flood, whether the new roof should pitch steeper so water learns to behave. Small talk that is actually a blueprint for staying. Cole pins Harper's note straighter by the window because it keeps leaning the way righteous things do. Aiyana nudges his chair a finger's width so he can see the gate without twisting ribs, a choreography nobody taught. Nights come easier, not dishonest. There are hours she sits at the window and listens for a voice that won't cross the fence, and hours he steps onto the porch and counts the boards like prayers. Sometimes she finds him there, and they speak. Sometimes he finds her there, and they don't. He says the names he signed wrong. She says the names she owes right. And between those recitations, the wind learns a way through the yard that doesn't unsettle horses anymore. By and by, the first frost throws lace over the trough, and the garden goes iron brittle. They haul feed and stack it tight, mend blankets, oil leather. River wears his winter coat like a small storm. One morning, a skein of geese writes an arrow south, and Cole says, "That's your map if you want it." And Aiyana taps the gatepost where the red cloth breathes. I have one. He nods, because a gate can be a compass if you let it. On a day the sky threatens snow, and then thinks better of it, a courier dusts up the road with a federal bag and a grin too new for his face. He hands a final folded page stamped neat, Hargrove convicted on counts 1 through 6, sentence committed. Attached, in Harper's square hand, a tiny sketch of a cottonwood with a wedge of iron and 4 words, iron remembers. So do we. Aiyana reads it twice, smiles once, and slips the page under the nail beside the first note so the lies that tried to own the county are bracketed by truths that refuse to be sold. Winter takes a seat and decides to stay. They add a 3rd rail to the grave fence and set a flat stone nearby where sun can warm it. She sits there mornings with coffee. He sits there evenings with a whetstone. Neither tells the other what they hear when the wind goes low. Some music belongs to each alone. Then, one more time, because ceremony is not always a church, they walk to the gate near dusk, the scarf moving like breath and the plank reading what it reads, the road empty of enemies and full of distance. Cole lays his palm on the post. Aiyana tightens the knot. The wind runs down the draw, cool and harmless, and lifts the red just enough to show a glint of gold under it before letting it settle back to red. And that is the whole thing, a land keeping its color, two people keeping their word, a promise that does not need to be louder than the breeze to last.